I'm here because my son was poisoned with fentanyl that he ordered from an app, an everyday e-commerce app. It wasn't the dark web or social media. Death delivered to your door. That's what it is. Cory was very rambunctious when he was younger, but always had such a kind soul, good-hearted, just took up for the underdog, even when he was small. Me and Cory's daddy separated, actually, when he was really young. So for about 5 to 6 years, it was just me and Cory. I was a single mother, and it was just me and him against the world. He made friends very easily. And like I said, he just had a heart of gold. He was an empath. He cared about other people a lot of times more than he should have. He cared about others more than he cared about himself. Or what my meemaw used to tell me is sometimes you're too good for your own good. And that was Cory. We moved to Felton. It was close to Buchanan, Georgia. And I believe that I shouldn't have changed schools. I shouldn't have changed this school at such an impressionable, I guess, anxiety at a time like that. Plus, Cory suffered from severe asthma. And then when he was 14, he had his first seizure. He went into cardiac arrest, respiratory arrest and cardiac arrest. I did CPR on him till the fire trucks and ambulance got there. They said that it was his front temporal lobe had scar tissue, and that had caused being intubated from his asthma attack caused that to present itself, the seizure disorder. Because he was intubated for 9 days when he had his asthma attack at the age of 14. But after that, he stopped going to school. We tried the homeschooling for a while, but then when he was 16, it became pretty much impossible. But he had the seizure disorder that was triggered by his asthma, very bad asthma attack that he was intubated for. With that, also, he developed a slight heart condition for a while where his heart was way up or way down. It was no set rhythm. But they said that he would outgrow that, and he did. He never really outgrew any of his asthma problems. As he got older, Cory started hanging around the wrong group, I guess you could say, experimenting with pills. It started with pills when he, late teens. I didn't know about it until a lot later. I knew something, he just wasn't acting right. And then his seizures were becoming more frequent, and he has a seizure disorder that he had been diagnosed with. But also what brought on his seizures later would be coming down off of a drug or a pill, And I didn't realize that until later. Now, when Cory was 18 or 19, he met his 2 oldest daughters' mother. And they were two addicts using together, which was not a very good combination. But I remember Cory coming home and calling me into his bedroom, and he said, "Will you sleep with me tonight?" And I said, "Yes, of course, of course, what's wrong?" He rolled up his sleeves, and there was bruises all over both arms. And he said, "I tried shooting up for the first time, Mama." And that's when I realized, there's a problem. Bad problem. Sent him to rehab in Tallulah, Georgia, Tallulah Falls, up in North Georgia. And he got kicked out of that for marijuana, testing positive, or getting caught one with smoking marijuana. I can't remember. In the meantime, he came home and he was still using. And there was periods of time where I thought he wasn't, and periods of time that I knew he was. He got in trouble with the law, and they gave him terms of his bond. Like go to in-treatment, long-term rehab. It was several conditions for, under his bond, which he didn't follow any of them. What he did originally to be in this trouble was he went into this local drugstore, family-owned drugstore, that I've used as long as I can remember living here in this small town. The owner knew Cory. All the women that worked there knew Cory, and they've known Cory since he was a baby, the owner. Cory went into that drugstore one day. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't, or anything, but he went up to the counter and said, "Give me all your narcotics." The owner looked at him and said, "Cory, why are you doing this?" And Cory, he just shook his head and come out of it and said, "Oh, I'm sorry." But by that time, the button's been mashed. The law's on the way. So they called him. He did get like I said, a bond for that under the conditions, a conditional bond. The owner of the drugstore went to court and said, "Look, he's not a bad person. He's good as gold, but he's got a problem. I just want him to get help." But anyway, the judge ordered him 15 years, do 5. Or 20 years, do 5. I think it's 15 years, do 5. So he did 5 years in prison. He made very good use of his time. He got his GED. He got 2 welding degrees. He got his CDLs. He went to parenting classes and drug classes. Up until the day he passed away, he would say prison was the best thing that could ever have happened to me, even though he had to be away from his children. But he told me just the week before he passed away that prison was the best thing that had happened to him in his sobriety and classes and getting his education. And it was a wake-up call because Cory had never had to spend more than 1 or 2 nights in the county jail. Prison, this is big boy prison now, So it was a wake-up call, got him sober.
Forced rehab.
Exactly. It was forced rehab, forced detox. He got out. He started seeing a lady that used to live across the street from us, actually. And they got married. My granddaughter Harper was born, my youngest granddaughter, who is now 4. She was 2 at the time of Cory's death. They got divorced. Final 2 weeks before he passed away. Now, and during this time, in the meantime, Cory had bought his first house with land. He inherited money from his father's death. He started his own business, West Georgia Land Solutions and Brush Control. He bought all the equipment for the business. He was doing very well. And, I mean, the world was just at his fingertips, and he was sober. He was doing great. He called me one night and said, "Mama, do you want to go to a business conference with me in Miami, Florida? Just me and you." He said it's probably been over 20 years since we've just taken since we've taken a vacation, just you and I. And I said, "Yes, of course. I'll take off of work. Let's go." We had a wonderful, wonderful time together during that week, and we talked about stuff that we have never really had a chance to talk about. And just, we enjoyed ourselves while we were in class during the day. But in the evening, we would go grab us something to eat. We would go see stuff we had never seen. I'd never been to Miami. Cory had never been to Miami. We were up and down South Beach, in the shops. He surprised me. We walked by a tattoo shop, and he said, "Mama, we got to go in here." I said, "Okay." It was Miami Ink, the tattoo shop that used to have the reality show. He said, "I'm going to get a tattoo." And I said, "Okay." If that's what he had already had some tattoos. I said, "Okay." But he'd never had a colored tattoo. So they did the stencil on his arm, and they hollered for me to come to the back to show me his tattoo. It was 2 roses intertwined by a vine and a banner that said "Mama." And that was like 6 days before he passed away. He got home. I knew somebody was calling him about a package. And they were arguing a little bit about wanting more money for the shipping or the freight or whatever, And Cory just ended up blocking them. But he had already ordered the package. And we got home on Thursday night because we drove. We didn't fly. I mean, that was 10 hours in the car, 10, 12 hours in the car there, 10, 12 hours back. And so we did a lot of talking. But I knew he was getting that package. This is before I didn't know anything about fentanyl, nothing. So Friday, he went to work. He was working in the town that I work in. So at lunch, I took him a pizza, some Gatorades. It was hot. It was in July. And my daughter's fiance, that was working for him. And everything was good. Friday night, I called him. My youngest daughter, who was 18, spent the night with him. And she was going to babysit Saturday when he went to work. So I called to tell him that I would come over the next morning pretty early and help my daughter, who was 18 at the time, babysit Harper, who was 2. And we would just have a girls' day, He said, "That sounds great." This was 10:30, 11 o'clock. at night. No, we said our I love yous, our good nights. Harper, his baby daughter, was already sleeping in his bed. It was his weekend for visit. And the next morning, he snuggled up with Harper. He took one of those pills from that package, and he never woke up Saturday morning on July 16th. My daughter called me, my youngest daughter, who was staying the night, and she said, Mama, Bubba won't wake up, and he's cold. She said he won't get up for work, and he's cold. I said, hang up and call 911. So that's what she did, and I was already on my way to his house. And he was gone. There was nothing. They tried. He was just like he was asleep. When the coroner came and they put him on back of the ambulance in a bag, I fought them to get on the ambulance. All I kept saying was, just wake up. Cory, just wake up. So they wouldn't let me touch him because they suspected fentanyl, but I didn't care. I just wanted to touch him. And I told the coroner, after fighting with him and the paramedics, please just take a picture of his face, his hands, and his long toes. I just want to remember my baby's toes, his long fingers. And he did that for me. So, when somebody passes away, it's little things that you forget. Like, what did his toes look like? I mean, he was a grown man. It's not like I played with his toes. But, there's little things that you forget about him. And I just don't want to forget anything. His long toes, his long fingers, I just don't want to forget. I mean, he was my firstborn, my only boy, and he was my first true love. And I was his. And it has shattered not only my world, but his daughter's, because he was their first true love as well. So, I got his talk screen back in the autopsy. I wanted every piece of paper. It was parafluorofentanyl, a.k.a. China White, that took his life. He was sent to the Georgia State Crime Lab. He passed on the night of the 16th, and we got to have his funeral on July 31st. So it took 2 weeks because they were backed up. But I finally got his autopsy back and the talk screen back. There were other things in his system, like a low Xanax, but the fentanyl is what took his life. And he paid for this package through Bitcoin. And it's, like I said, an everyday e-commerce site. It's called India Mart. They sell everything like Amazon, and they use so many different vendors from China and India, everywhere. They don't verify their vendors. and what they're selling. Like, it could be Joe Blow in the bathroom stamping out pills. They don't verify it. They have their own app and calling system within the app itself. They still email him to this day, different people from this app. And this app can be downloaded from any iPhone, any Android. It's everyday e-commerce app. The way the shipment came through customs is through the Minimis loophole. Anything valued at $800 or less comes through with no taxes, no tariffs, no inspection. $800 or less, there's no inspections. None. So it could be, it could be 1,000, illicit, fake, pressed pills laced with fentanyl. And that's how it arrived. Not only, yes, I agree. Yeah, it's coming over the border. It's being walked over the border. It's being drove over the border. But it's coming through our mail as well. Death delivered right to your doorstep. And it shouldn't be that way. If my son took a Percocet, a real one, or Xanax, a real one, he would still be here. I have the tracking on the package. I sent his phone to a digital forensic investigator who got all of this stuff off that he could. But now the DEA also wants his phone for a lot of evidence that they are needing to further the investigation of this app, because they already have investigation open, because I'm not the only one. People don't talk about it, and I'm from such a small town. You see where I'm from, where I grew up. The stigma is there. They don't want to say it. It's happening. It's happening every day. It's happening everywhere. It's happening even in small towns. But nobody will speak up and talk about it because it's something to be ashamed of. It's not. Addiction is a disease. Addiction can happen to anybody. Addiction, comes with self-medicating. Some of the best people that I've ever known were addicts, but they finally got clean. But they were good people when they were addicted as well. Anyway, Cory leaves behind me, his mama, that he was the first grandchild. And the day he was born, him and my daddy was like, he's mine. And I lived right next door. So he was not only spoiled by me, he was spoiled by his grandparents badly. He leaves behind his mama that he loved very, very much. 2 sisters and 3 daughters. No, and what kills me is the memories I have and the pictures I have and that they have is all that'll ever be. Every picture I have, I make so many copies and back it up. There's no more memories to be made. There's no more daddy-daughter dances that the 2 oldest ones would go to. My youngest granddaughter will never know that. And I'm going to try my best to not ever let his memory fade. He won't ever be forgotten as long as I'm breathing. I feel like that sometimes God intervenes or a higher power, whatever you want to say, not intervenes, but allows something to happen so something worse don't. I feel like if Cory hadn't have passed away that Friday night after receiving the package of illicit, pressed, fake pills, if he hadn't have passed away Friday night, you know, the way Cory was and giving and caring about people, there was a very good chance that he would have gave his sister a half of a pain pill for menstrual cramps, you know, or one of his workers a pain pill, or, you know, or a friend a Xanax for their nerves, you know, because he got Xanax and Percocets. And I feel like if he hadn't have died that night and someone else had have, on account of him, he wouldn't have been able to live with himself because of his heart. You know, he was so kind-hearted. He had a heart of gold. There's no way my son would have been able to live with himself knowing he took somebody else's life. You know, if half of a pill, you know, or here, Mama, I guess your back hurts. Yeah, and that was my son. I trusted him. I would have took it. You know, I would have took it because I didn't know about fentanyl. You know. So, you know, it could have been me. It could have been his sister. It could have been a friend. It could have been anybody. If he hadn't have passed away that night, it would have been somebody else that he probably loved very much. You know, and they know this administration they know this is happening. I'm on the Minimis coalition in Washington. I've done several PSAs about it that they've released, but still nothing's being done. Death delivered to your door. Thought, you know. And on the hearing, the Ways and Means Committee hearing about the de minimis loophole needing to be closed and more regulated, on the front row was UPS, FedEx, and DHL. They want it to stay open, you know? That's how they're making their millions off of Temu and Shein, and, you know, if they close the de minimis loophole, Temu's not going to have free shipping anymore. But, I mean, it's the truth. Yeah. But it all ties into one big vicious circle. Not only addicts using this app, but it's also unsuspecting individuals using this app that can't afford their medication for a month. And they're getting like high blood pressure medicine and they're dying. Not only are drug dealers, the American drug dealers that are here using this app, you know, paying 45, 65 cents a pill and reselling it for $30, $40, $50 a pill and killing everybody that come inside, you know, everybody that gets one. So they're preying on the addicts. We're just at their disposal. I mean, you know, it could happen to any time, any person. And if there's a loophole to be found, a drug dealer's going to find it. I'm very, very, very I'm so for awareness, spread, you know, and telling people this is happening now. It's, you know, it's not, can it happen? It's when. Because it's going to, you know, pretty soon everybody we come in contact with is going to have somebody that has passed away from fentanyl poisoning or fentanyl. You know, so. And it's coming over the borders in every way possible. We all have an $800 price tag on our head. We don't matter. You know, declare $100 and let's kill 50 people.
ship it to this person, and then they'll ship it to that person, so it looks like U.S. shipping. And they do that too. The cartels and the Chinese that are already here, they'll make it to where it looks like U.S. shipping. It's not really. So, there you go. It's in the mail. Delivered right to your doorstep. Death delivered to your door. That's what it is.